sips to midnight thoughts. This is where the real talk starts. So take a seat, have a chat, table talk, where the real talk's at.
Good evening, everybody. We're glad you're here tonight. Last couple of weeks have been going over man of faith, faith that has action and that sort of stuff. Tonight we're doing a woman of faith and the biblical aspects of it. We invited my wife to give us the principles of that because it's coming from a woman of faith. She's not perfect by all means, and neither am I, neither is Chris.
Don't tell everybody. Lord.
So starting next Friday, we're going to go have the video be live starting on Friday that we did today, which is Saturday, so that Saturday's video don't take away from it. So we are just going to upload it on Friday. You'll see it on Friday, and Saturday will be live. Also starting next Saturday, we're going to go live to Facebook. We wanted to make sure we had all the kinks and the quirks and everything worked out, audio, video. Tonight's going to be the real test because we're back to having 3 people again. But we'll see how this microphone does. So, do tell us the woman of faith.
Well, what do you think a woman of faith is?
Me, caveman.
I mean, it's interesting to see what the man's idea is, you know?
I can tell you that it's hard to look out in the world and find one.
Yeah.
All right. Now, not being judgmental or anything like that, I have referred, because I talk to a lot of people in a lot of different contexts. I have referred many females, like if you feel like life is messed up, go to the Word. But if you want to get into your role as a female, especially a female in the Word, Proverbs 31.
Yep, I was going to touch base on that.
I knew you was, and that's why I'm just bringing that up. Basically, I'm going to sit here and nod and comment and let you
smile and wave.
Yeah, smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. I do have a couple of thoughts that I'm going to inject in there from time to time because I can't sit here and shut up. But for the most part, as the woman of faith, that is the best I've got as an observational standpoint, not being a woman myself. I'm talking about things that I haven't personally experienced. So that's why we're leaving it to you.
Well, a woman of faith is a lot like the man of faith in many ways.
Right.
We have the same responsibilities to God, the same, we're supposed to fully walk with him and spend time with him. And the biggest difference is we submit.
Well, the male submits also.
Well, they do to an extent, but they are the leader. They lead over the woman. So, yes. Our biggest thing is that we struggle with is that submission.
Well, y'all don't like the word at all.
No, we don't. And I think we touched base on that in a previous lesson that we did.
Like I hear thunderclouds rolling in as I speak.
The biggest thing for a woman of faith is trusting God.
Yep.
Trusting God and be obedient. Pray. Dig in your Bible. And that kind of reminded me, I'm reading this book. What is it called? God, I can't remember what it's called. I have to look that up.
I don't remember either.
I just started reading it. I'm on like the 3rd page and I'm already like, hey, honey, I got an aha moment.
That's good though.
In it, it's talking about, and it's kind of talking about the same things, being of God, being a woman of God, being, a faithful servant. But it was talking about, and which I was going to bring this up too, is some examples, Martha and Mary in the Bible. They were faithful servants.
Now, we are talking about the
Lazarus' sister.
Right. Now, were these the same ladies that Martha pitched a fit when Mary was washing Jesus's feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because there's so many Marys, I don't always get them you know.
She was throwing a fit because she's doing more than the other, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah,
in
she was
there making the
working,
meal,
And Mary was, you know,
listening.
being with Jesus.
Yeah.
She
same
was
time.
spending time with the Lord, and you know, and women do have different gifts and different ways of honoring God, and you know, Martha's was by doing the daily chores, the cooking, and all of that, and Mary was like, I just want to listen. I just want to be here. I want to learn. I want to be in His presence. Who wouldn't want to be in His presence?
Right.
You know, I know I wouldn't want to be doing household chores when Jesus is sitting there. I mean, I hear it straight from His mouth.
Right.
You know, but Martha was serving the way that she felt
Correct.
needed to be. And she got upset when Mary wasn't helping. So this book brought this to my attention. And I never really thought of it that way before. Because what did He say to her, Martha? She's where Mary is, where she needs to be. Leave her alone.
Well, not only that, but if my memory serves correctly, that is the only instance in Scripture where Jesus allowed Himself to be served.
Mm-hmm.
Because even at the Last Supper, He broke the bread and passed it around.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure that there were other folks there who refilled the drinks and whatnot, but Christ Himself served.
Yeah.
You know,
It wasn't all about Him. I mean, it was, but it
it
wasn't.
it
Yeah.
was, but
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
You know. But if I recall, that is the only instance where Jesus allowed Himself to be served. Every other instance, He was healing, feeding the sick, teaching, preaching, you know, serving others.
It's something we talked about, I think it was last night before, this whole series. And I really don't want it to end because it's been got us, I don't know about you, but us for sure, we are digging deep
Right.
and learning at the same time. You know, I always knew the man of the house. Well, not really knew, but I knew of the comment or quote, whatever you want to call it.
The
Right.
commandment.
The command,
of-
yeah. The man of the house. I always knew, but when we decided to do this, it was like going through kindergarten again.
Well, and it goes back to what we'd mentioned before. As parents, followers, believers of Jesus, we are to teach our children what
Yeah.
that means. And that has fallen away in the world we're living in now.
I posted something on Facebook. I reshared a meme, and it said something to the effect of, you know, biblical Christianity isn't popular. Popular, you know, Christianity isn't biblical. And I don't remember where all it went from there, but a friend that we all went to school with commented on there, and it's like, that's why the world is the way that it is. So many of us has gotten away from it.
Well, and we can blame it on society, and the world is completely
I
different.
even blame
than
it on the apathy of previous generations.
Yeah.
There are things going on in the world today that maybe our parents' generation and their parents' generation would have said, no, it'll never happen,
right,
you know. And here we are, it's happening like it's never happened before.
right.
You know?
Yeah.
But what it boils down to is we can say, oh, well, our parents never taught us, their parents never taught them. Well, if we're actually followers of Christ and we're digging in that word, it shouldn't matter.
Well, there's that, because you are correct. Yes, it is supposed to be handed down, and we are supposed to be taught. But we are in an age where we have access to, you know, it's like we're not in a situation where we can't get a hold of a Bible, where we can't find a church or any sort, you know, we're out of excuses, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If we're not following the word, if we're not reading the word, that is a choice. It's not an excuse. It is a choice.
But
And-
that also goes to the parents who say that they are believers and followers of Jesus. If they're not teaching this stuff, then, you know, they're not doing biblically
Then
correct
they're
either.
lacking somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
And-
So there's plenty of opportunities out there to learn this. And I mean, like I said, we weren't taught. So what did we do? We decided we were going to do this, and we've been digging and digging and digging. And, you know, it's opened our eyes up to so many different things. Like we
Right.
knew the concept, the basics, but, you know, actually digging in and seeing and actually working it has
Well,
been.
and trying to figure out, okay, it says that, but what does it mean today?
Yes.
And that's one of the parts that always gets me is, like, okay, you're the head of the house. Well, I can do that. I mean, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
But when you start digging into the responsibility that is heaped on top of that and the cause and effect and consequences, like, God, take this cup from me. I don't want it,
Mhm.
And because there's nothing about it that's easy.
The accountability is different for the husband than the wife.
That's exactly where it's at.
And that's where the struggle, I mean, and it puts a lot of pressure on the man. And, and I know I can speak for Ken because I see it. When he messes up, I can just see it. Like, he gets upset. I mean, there's been times where he'll cry and I failed you.
Well,
I let you down. I'm like, no, you haven't.
The biggest
You're
problem
still trying.
and this is not between you two, but one of the biggest problems on that aspect, and it might be a completely different podcast, but nobody cares about the man's struggle.
Yeah.
A few months ago, it was a female that we all went to school with. I don't throw names out here, so get over it. She sent me a message a couple months ago. Hey, I hope you're doing all right. It's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I was like, let me explain to you how little that, I was like, I appreciate it, but let me explain to you how little anybody cares about that. We don't know that we have a month.
Right.
I didn't know it was a
I
thing.
didn't either.
I had no idea.
44 years old, and I didn't know we had a month.
Well, that should be a holiday.
You would think so, but nobody cares.
But I mean,
That's Father's
and-
Day and Mother's Day.
Right.
and it is true.
Which
I
really
mean,
ends up being Mother's Day.
I was like,
Right.
even Father's Day and Mother's Day, like Mother's Day, the women get celebrated way more than the fathers, But if
Well,
the fathers
generally
being
on
the
Father's
leaders,
Day, we're still serving the mother.
yeah,
We're the one manning the grill.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not sharing my grill.
I just started sharing with the boys.
I
That's
try
what
to
they
make
have to
it.
learn.
Yeah.
I do try to make it about him. I really do.
And
Hey, what do you want to eat at your
the
day?
stupid thing
And I'll
is
cook it.
that, and I know we're severely off topic, but I do want to get this out. As our society has progressed, even you attempting to make it about him, we're uncomfortable with that because we don't get that kind of attention.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We don't know how to react. You could wake up in the mornings like, hey, the day is all about you. What do you want? Like, boy, I feel uncomfortable. I want you to go over there and leave me alone, because I'm uncomfortable as heck right now.
Yeah.
And I will say that women do tend to feel that way from time to time too.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I mean, how many times have I said I don't want to be the spotlight. I don't want to be no, don't make it about me.
Right.
Let's just do our day and be done with it. And it can be, just as frustrating for the women too sometimes. But that's not how society portrays it.
Right.
Society, it's all about and I have noticed that it's about the women. And I'm a stay-at-home parent.
Mhm.
We just adopted the grandbaby and we're
Right.
raising her. My daughter, love her. She's a stay-at-home parent. And I see all of these things. And yes, being a stay-at-home mom is more than a full-time job. It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's harder than having a full-time job.
In many ways, yes, because it's constant.
There's no break.
Well, there's. I was going with that, and it's not that. Of course, being a parent is a 24-hour-a-day job.
Yes.
Being a caregiver is a 24. Like and don't get me wrong, I will make comments that don't always portray things in the best light. But I will tell you flat out, especially like the caregivers. I've visited nursing homes. I, over the years, have dated several. This area, almost every female has been a CNA at some point, so that's not uncommon. And I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. You can't pay me enough to do it. Like there's certain aspects, and like this is not just for me. Like all of my guy friends, we have talked about this and we agree. There are certain words and phrases that the females come home and say is like, I'll die fine if I never hear that come out of your mouth again. Like I don't want to hear the word uncircumcised ever again.
It's in the Bible.
It is, but it's the context, But again, we have gotten severely off topic. So where are we at with the woman of faith?
Well, I was going to get back up to that. All I was going to say is, focusing more on the women. Something that I watch my daughter do, and I absolutely love it. And
Right.
I try to do it as well. She does make comments, hey, pay attention to the mom at home. She's exhausted. She's overwhelmed. She's this.
Right.
But in the next post, it'll be my husband goes and he works hard for his family. He provides for his family. So she gives him that credit as well.
And there, it does need to be. And like I said, I do feel for the stay-at-home parent, caregiver, however, because it's not always a child. Sometimes it might be an elderly parent that you're taking care of. And, I mean, it is a 24/7 job, and we can be realistic. A person isn't actually serving every 24/7 moment.
Right.
But with work, you get to go home and leave work at work.
But if it weren't
Yeah.
for our men out there working,
You wouldn't have that opportunity
to be home.
And then again, I feel for those who have the split role. They do work and still come home and try to do what they can as a homemaker.
yeah, it's hard.
Yes.
It is hard I'm only saying this just so that, we can put more focus on, the husbands, the fathers, they're out there, and like the single fathers. I mean, that have custody of their kids full time.
I can tell you flat out, that is
that is hard.
well, that is if you bring that up, it is more common now, but 20 years ago when that was unheard of.
Yeah.
So you
the
bring it
moms
up,
were the ones raising the kids, and the dads were doing, I went through
whatever
that.
dads are accused of doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's correct. I'm not trying to scapegoat anything, but when you bring up the fathers that have been in that position, it's unheard of. Nobody even believes you.
It's not talked about enough.
No, it's not.
And
when the reason for that is because if the father got the custody, there's something wrong with the woman, and our society cannot handle that concept.
well, there's some women who aren't meant to be parents. I'm
not going to
saying.
disagree with you.
I mean, I've lived through that personally myself twice now. I mean, there's a reason why we've got a granddaughter we're raising.
Right.
And then, my own birth mother gave me up. So, there's just some, there are some fathers who make way better parents than mothers ever do. I mean, it just, and I think as a society, we need to start focusing equally, men and women. It takes a community.
It takes both, and there is a strong, and don't get me wrong, in no way am I trying to downplay the role of the mother, the wife.
Oh, no.
But yet I do want to put an emphasis on the male leadership aspect. I mean, statistically, if a mother comes to Christ, the kids are like 17 to 20 something % likely to follow in that. But when the man starts serving God, you're up in the high 80s and 90s. Now you can draw whatever conclusions from that you want, but that is the data.
Yeah.
And the same thing can be applied in reverse is when we look at dual role households, like raising kids with a mother and a father, or even if it's a step parent. If we compare kids statistics to a 2-parent household versus a single mother household versus a single father household, and I'm not making any assumptions, this is the data. A 2-parent household, the kids are far less likely to get into drugs, to get into prison, to get into jail time. Now, we all know somebody that grew up in a nice home and made bad choices.
Oh, yeah.
But we're talking about on a grand scale, what are your percentages?
Right.
And when you look at single mother households, almost everybody that's in jail for drugs, for abuse, for violence, whatever the case may be, most of these people came from a single mother household. And I'm not trying to put the women down in any way. It's just when you move, and there have been single father households now long enough that we can start collecting data. And the statistics are almost identical to a dual parent household. So the role of a male plays some significant role.
And that is why God put him as the head.
Well, and that's the point I'm trying to make is I'm not trying to take down women in any shape, way, form, or fashion. But there is, so much of our society, especially since what the 60s or 70s has been, you can do anything a man can do. Okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you should,
Right.
like I can walk in moving traffic, but it doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the only where I'm going with that is, there is an aspect where the male presence, and especially a godly male presence,
Mm-hmm.
plays such a major role in the development of our families, of our children, that, I don't have all the answers for the who's, the what's, and the whys. It's just statistically it's there regardless.
Well, I mean, it's biblical. I mean, it all goes back to God's original design. God designed it that way for that reason.
I got to watch my squirming. I keep moving out of camera.
Something to remember when God said, make him, like when it comes to marriage, the man, the wife, well, God's in the middle.
Yeah,
So
you bring up the three-stranded cord.
So I think the reason why God did this, it would make sense to have a man of faith and a woman of faith.
Yeah, that is the design.
I read something last night, I think it's in Corinthians. If the husband does not believe, but the wife does, I'm trying to remember exactly what it said. He's to leave her, or she's supposed to leave him, or something of that nature.
Well, that gets into the unevenly yoked aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the likelihood, and ladies, I hate to tell you this.
You're not going to change them.
No.
If
I'll throw that out there.
again, statistically, if a female finds a man and she's like, okay, he's rough around the edges, but I can work with that, and I'm going to change him.
Yeah, it ain't going to happen. 9 times out of 10, it will not happen.
If you can, she won't respect him and she'll leave.
And that's
Because
true,
she's
too.
now changed him into somebody that
She
she
didn't-
wasn't attracted to.
Right.
And I had that conversation. Me and my daughter and one of her girlfriends went bowling a month or two ago, something like that. And that was brought up by the friend. Is like, I kind of like this guy, but he needs a little work. I was like, stay away from him, leave him alone.
Yep.
I was like, because if you can change him into who you think he needs to be, you won't respect him
Yep.
because you was able to make him change. I'm like, and it's the stupidest logic I've ever seen. It always reminded me of that woman
But
having a
it's-
bad day cutting her hair thing. You're having a bad day, you go cut your hair, and then you cry because you cut your hair off to show him. I'm like, that is the stupid. I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah. I didn't forget what I was going to say.
Well, and don't get me wrong, men do stupid stuff too. This ain't a woman.
No, I
don't.
mean, I was going to say about the woman trying to change the
How
man.
often do we pitch a fit where we tear up crap that we have to now fix or replace, and then throw a fit about that as well? It's stupid. It might make us feel better at the time.
I remember a tablet going flying across the floor
I
once
did
and
no such
shattered.
thing. It felt-
He dropped it sideways.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was.
There she goes being an archaeologist. You get hysterical.
Yeah. Didn't read that, Fugger, remember?
But yeah, I mean, it's not our job to fix the man. That's God's job.
Right.
And I think that when what you were saying, when we're like, oh, but I fixed him and I don't like him. Well, it's because it wasn't our job to fix him because we turned him into what we wanted, not what God intended for him.
Well, and there's also a correlation between trying to find what we want versus what we need.
Yes. Wants
and
and needs are
and that,
completely different.
yeah, and that's not a gender thing. We're all guilty of that
Yep.
nonsense.
Yep.
So,
All right. So
woman of faith.
yeah, so it's back on track here. So
Ooh, look, something shiny.
Squirrel.
So yeah, we said about trusting in God, and we're talking about Mary and Martha, and how they're the way that they worshiped God was different.
Yeah, they served in different capacities.
Yes. But something that caught my attention when Jesus told Martha, no, Mary's where she needs to be. It made me realize something. How often are we so busy doing for God that we forget to be with God?
Mm.
I heard a pastor bring this up years ago, and I passed it along to my pastor a few weeks ago because somebody asked, how was it worded? There is I want to say it might be in James. I could be completely wrong on that, but there is a reference to being in a constant state of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked, like, how can one accomplish this? And he was going over all that. And of course, I can't keep my big mouth shut. So I let him, and he touched on it. I just couldn't shut up. And it's like, okay, yes, how often are we praying to God? We need to be praying regularly,
Mm-hmm.
which, fine, I'm not opposed to that. When do we shut up and listen?
Yeah.
You know, almost never, because we're busy telling God what we want, what we think he ought to do,
Mm-hmm.
what we would like him to do for us. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of this very same, you know.
Oh yeah, we all are. I mean, we are. And that's what I was telling him. I said, it kind of made me think, you know, we're starting this new podcast and stuff. And, you know, we don't want to get too busy doing for God that we forget to be with God.
Right.
Whether
right.
it is by prayer, Bible study, you know, or like you said, simply just sitting and listening.
Be still.
Being still, yes.
I
And
can't.
I think that's I think a lot of it is we want to do our little prayer, we want to do our little Bible study, and then we just want to go, okay,
Go
we're
right
done.
back about our life.
Yeah, we're done.
And a lot of times church is the same way. We go on Sunday, we top off the tank, and then we go back to everyday life
Mhm.
for the rest of the week. And guys, that's why a lot of folks say the church and the Christians are hypocritical.
Yeah.
Now I'll correct them because I'm trying not to get sidetracked here. Either way, hypocrites, that's a different conversation. But
Why it says heaven.
we are supposed to be the church. We are not
Yeah.
supposed to go to church and get a refill and a top off.
Yep.
Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes that's exactly what we need. But
Sometimes your cup's so empty, you just have
and
to.
I'm not disputing
Yeah.
that, but
But it's not supposed to end just on Sunday.
it's not supposed to be for us. That's the thing is we go and a lot of times we're getting that word, that message, that worship time, and we're using it for our benefit, but we're supposed to take that in so we can then pour it out.
Yeah.
You know, I always wondered why when you go through scripture, it always refers to us as a broken vessel. Well, what happens when you pour into a broken vessel? It leaks back out.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're
Mhm.
supposed to do. Is we're supposed to take in the Spirit. We're supposed to take in the Word, the message, and we're supposed to
Go and
let
share
it
it.
drip as
We're
we're
supposed to plant those seeds and
right. You know,
that's what God calls all of us to do. Man or woman, we're supposed to spread his word.
right,
There's no
and we're also supposed to live it.
yes.
You know,
Yeah, definitely. I talk about that a lot. Our walk and our talks matching. Definitely. That's a big one for me because it's so easy to talk it and not walk it.
it's very that is the easiest part, to be
That's
honest
when that
with you.
consistency comes in, or complacency comes in.
Yeah.
I just had two big words. I don't know where they came from. Anyways, it's just getting complacent. It's so easy. You do your daily routine, your weekly task, and
Mhm.
like me and her were talking earlier. During the week when I'm working, because I have certain days off, I go to work, come home, we eat dinner, we go to bed.
Yeah.
I watch TV for an hour or so, spend time with the kids and the baby. But it seems like we're doing Bible time on the weekends. That's it.
Well,
Right.
It seems like.
I read my Bible app every night before I go to bed.
I said we.
Now, as a couple together, yeah, that's what we got to work on, that togetherness.
Read
on
it
that.
out loud.
Yeah. Well, he's usually snoring, so.
Well, here's what's
He
funny
can learn
is,
through osmosis. Place a Bible on his head.
like I told her today, I said there's a lot of things I need to work on, and I saw a TikTok video, and there's 10 steps and I will share it on our post here after this video. I don't remember all of them, but one of them was praying together and doing Bible study together as a man and wife.
Yeah.
And that's something I need to work on as a husband. My wife does Bible study every night. I do mine. She does hers. And that's it. And what's funny is, as we're talking about the biblical things of the wife, the family, the husband and wife, 1 Corinthians chapter 7 reads in my mind. I don't know if it was a God thing, but I read it last night and it's like, whoa.
Of course, and the wife's over here
Okay,
like,
now spit it out because I'm, don't specifically recall 1 Corinthians chapter 7.
Basically, it's talking about how husband and wife are supposed to spend time together.
it's
Okay,
it's
yeah.
Paul's
Paul's
message to the churches
Paul
about
said you're not
the
supposed to
couples.
neglect your
Yes.
wife. You're not supposed to neglect your husband.
Okay, so this is also the submit chapter.
Yes.
that we
Yes.
like the submit
Yes.
one, but not the rest of it.
You're not
Yeah.
supposed to deny
Okay.
them or stuff like that unless it's
Right,
agreed
right,
upon.
right.
And I'm reading this, and then I'm like, well, didn't that Proverbs say the same thing?
Weird how that happens, isn't it?
there's a lot of things that are mentioned multiple times in the Bible, but that's for a reason.
It's like a nuisance, but not in a
It's
bad
not
way.
a nuisance, it's
But not
a
in a bad way.
reminder. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, this was
Right.
important, so it's going to be repeated multiple times.
God said, I told you to do this. Okay, you didn't get it here. I'm going to tell you over here.
Mhm.
Oh, it's in the Old chapter 2? Well, guess what? It's in the New Testament also.
Right. The thing about it is, if it's important, it will be made known.
Yeah. It'd be right.
Yeah.
They're going to say, God said.
and that's it. And, if you're feeling like there's being pressure put on you to do this, that's a good thing. It's annoying as can be at the time,
It's called conviction.
and
And,
I'd just say embrace it.
And the wife-
God says do this, do it.
and the
you know,
wife may
make
have
time.
the wife may have mentioned this a few times over the last year or so.
They
Hey,
look
we
at
need
her
to
putting her authority
we
in
need
there.
we need to pray together. We need to, but again, that goes back to the role of the wife
Right.
and a faithful woman, a woman of faith. When you know your husband is not doing biblical, we are to gently guide them back. Try to at
And
least.
this time it wasn't another man telling me to do it.
I know.
Right.
I know. Usually I'll tell him and somebody else will say it, and it's usually a man, and he'll be like, yeah, I got to start doing that. And I'm like, we just had this conversation like 2 days ago and you didn't listen to me.
He's like, but I don't listen to you.
The man says it, and yeah, okay. I was like, what? That kind of bothers me a little bit. I know it shouldn't, and I know
The
God works
downside
different
is
ways, and it's what He needed for him to.
men,
She
men
said-
view that very thing in the opposite, almost like cheating. If we talk to you and you don't listen, and especially if it's an advice thing, like what should I do or where should we go with this or whatever. If he speaks to you about this and you don't listen, but another guy comes and says the same thing, and you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like we view that like cheating, It's like I just said the same thing, but you have to take his word for it. Really? It's
I looked at it this way. She said this, I forget what it was. It's been about a month ago when she said what she said. And then the next Sunday, the preacher said something. That's just confirmation saying, hey, listen to her.
was that the tithing one?
Yeah, that's it.
But
Yeah.
do you notice how he said how long it took for the confirmation to hit?
Right.
That's hey, your God gave you your wife for a reason.
Yeah, it did. He speaks through her to me a lot.
Well, that's the role of the wife.
It's like that freaking cowbell. Dong.
Like, thank you, Jesus.
And again,
Sorry.
and that's how God uses a woman of faith. That kind of goes
Well,
back
just
to
look at that, the woman of faith.
The
Look
woman
at
of
that.
faith.
Just look at that.
And it goes into like the whole trust in God. We are to have that faith in God, and we are to believe in His promises and to act upon that belief as a
Right.
woman of faith. And we're supposed to do it in confidence too. I don't know if you even knew that. We were
Mhm.
supposed to be confident about that. God said He will, so we're supposed to confidently agree. Okay, yep, He's going to do that. Confidence is not one of my strong suits.
I touched on this, I think, last week, but also in sharing with other folks. we are to have faith. Faith is important, you know, but you don't have to have faith in things that you know. You know, do you have to have faith that God exists, or do you know He exists?
Prove that he don't.
Well, and that's where I'm at.
It's like you have
If
faith.
God keeps His word and He keeps His promises, you don't have to have faith that God is going to keep His word and His promises.
It's like
And that's where we have trouble is we know the electric bill is going to show up at the same day every month, you know, and we don't have faith that it'll show up. We know it's going to show up. Does that make sense?
It's like you have faith in that fuel pump.
Yeah.
It
Well,
got
I really didn't. I had faith in my God,
Okay,
you know,
so
because fuel pumps generally work or they don't.
so this got actually kind of interesting. And I actually got permission from my daughter Alicia to share this. So I will say her name because she gave me permission. We were talking about how we were doing this on faith.
I forgot about that.
So she got a new king size mattress.
Right.
Her father-in-law had to pick it up. They were following him. It was in the back of his truck. Well, he was in a hurry and may have went a little bit more than he should have. And
It may have exceeded the posted
what-
recommended speed limit, you know,
so you know, imagine that it's not strapped down.
bad move. Hey,
Um,
didn't flick the straps and say that ain't moving.
from what I understood, it wasn't strapped down.
From the sounds of it, no.
Let me put that out there. That from what I understood, well, they're following close behind. Next thing they know, they see this mattress,
Oh yeah.
you know, flip up, and no, I mean, like
It's
everybody's fine.
It's helicoptering.
Yeah, and
She's
like,
not freaking out.
she's not freaking out. And her husband, she said her husband looks at her and he's like, "How are you calm?" She goes, "I had faith. God had us." She's like, "I just knew I had faith."
And
She goes, "Inside, I might have been freaking out a little bit. You know, that's kind of scary."
Well, I mean, you also have to be thankful. It's like, well, it's not a giant piece of steel. It's at least soft.
Yeah. Well, they were following so close, but they still. I don't even think she said that they ended up not even hitting it.
Right.
And so there was no car damage. There was no like nothing. Like, you know, they missed it completely. If I understood
Did the mattress
correctly.
survive?
Huh?
Did
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Everything survived. And there was no damage to anything.
And the grandbaby slept through the whole thing.
Yeah.
They always miss the best stuff.
So
But it's funny, but she's talking about this, and we just got done doing our podcast.
yeah, and she was like, you could share that if you want. And I'm like, well, if we could fit it in somewhere. And you said the faith about your fuel pump. And I was like, oh,
Right.
speaking of, and again, that's a woman of faith.
Yes.
You know, she had faith. She's like, yeah, it was scary. Not going to say it wasn't, but I knew it was going to be okay because I knew God had us. I just had faith.
Right.
And, you know, that again goes to that, you know, fearlessness is actually what's next that I was going to call out. Fearlessness.
Right.
You know, having that faith of God's got me no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
God's got me. He's going to protect me. He's going to guide me. I might not like some of it, but
No.
His way is better than mine. And I have to have that fearlessness, that faith in knowing that He knows more than me. And wherever it may go, and it might be scary at times, it may be out of my comfort zone, which, you know, doing this is out of my comfort zone, you know, but, and he asked me, he's like, have you been nervous about this at all? And I was like, I thought I would be, but I'm not, you know, and that tells me that God has put us here. And then again, that's where I have that faith. God has us doing this for a reason. This isn't about us. This is about God and getting His word out. And so that tells me, I believe that this is, you know, our calling from God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what we're supposed to be doing, because I've not been nervous about it, and I'm not good on public speaking at all. And he's like, I haven't been nervous either. And I'm like, well, that's good. You know, that means we're doing something right. We're having that faith in God, and He's going to get us through. And, you know, and our audience might be a little low right now, but you know what? God can turn it around and do miraculous things with
I
it.
heard a
If we
story.
reach one person, just one person, we've done what we're supposed to do.
I heard a story, and I don't know how accurate it is because this was way before our time. But back, let's say roughly Depression era, there was a church outside of whatever area this happened in that was doing a tent revival. This gentleman invited one of the neighbor kids to go, about 12 or 13, I think it was. Might not have even been that old. Kid didn't want to go. He's like, well, I'll bring it up when it gets closer. So, and this guy just bought a new truck. Of course, back then their vehicles were not everywhere.
Right.
So he comes back by and he's like, I want to take you to this tent revival. He's like, I'll go if you let me drive the truck. Well, this was pre-driver's license, so he agreed. They go to this tent revival, and I don't know if it happened for one day or all week because they used to do that sort of thing back then. And the way I understood the story is however long this tent revival went, they know of only one person that gave their life to Christ. And it was that boy who turned out to be Billy Graham.
I remember that.
So the people of that tent revival might have looked at that as a failure.
Right.
But when you look at the long-term picture,
Oh yeah.
and I feel the same way on this podcast is, to me, it's not about the follower. It's not about how many, because if just one, it's worth it.
Yeah.
If we can share a message that
Mm-hmm.
either puts somebody into a spot of correction, brings them back to Christ, gets them seeking Christ.
Or maybe just teaches them something like with us, with this, we never knew.
It gets them under a moment of conviction, or understanding for that matter.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's because I enjoy speaking on it anyway.
Mhm.
And, as these topics come up, well, we're learning,
Yeah.
and like I said, that this is as much for us as it is for everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But not in a self-grandizing way. I
Right.
mean, it's not about popularity. It's not
Mm-mm.
You know.
And that's why I said this isn't our podcast. This is God's.
right.
We're just trying to do what He called us to do. That's all we're trying to do. We didn't start this. He just said, "Hey, this is what I want you to do." And we're like, "I don't know about this." And He's like, "Nope, this is what I said." And we're like, "Okay, this is what we're doing." I mean, it's not, it's not about us. And that's what I said.
Right.
If we, I know that we don't have a lot right now, but you know what? God's got a plan, and it's His plan, and
And
He knows what He's doing.
As it said, if it turns out to be only one,
That's right.
we have no idea what the impact of that one may or may not be.
Yep.
So, like our job, and it's something that we, I've heard pastors talk about this, and I don't remember the specific verse, but Jesus spoke in red about, you plant the seed. Well, actually, a lot of times you're just sprinkling the seed. You're not really even planting. And some of it falls on good,
the wheat-
fertile, soft
The wheat and
ground.
the tares.
Well, not that. Some of it falls on rocky, rooted
Oh,
ground.
there was
Some
two
of it-
different ones. That's right.
All right. And a lot of times as Christians, we know we're supposed to plant the seed, but then we take on the role of gardener. That's not our job. Our job is to plant the seed. And
Gotta water it.
if that seed starts to take, 9 bets on 10, it's somebody else's job to cultivate that.
Right.
So, but a lot of times that's where we're at as Christians is, we want to take that role start to finish. We want to see the results of our work.
Mm-hmm.
That's
But it's not our work,
no, it's not.
and that's where.
And it's not our place.
That's where that's what I was saying a while ago about the man and the woman wanting to fix the guy. Well, that's not your place.
No.
That is not your place. You can plant the seed, but it's up to him and God after that.
Right.
And that's where free will comes in on that
Right.
one. Love and compassionate. I mean, that goes back to also the wife being, she's supposed to be the nurturing one in the home, and and it's the same. You got to be loving, compassionate for God, for people, if you're going to be a woman of faith.
I heard a lady say that in her house, her husband is the head and she is the heart.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much, that's pretty much summarizes that part of it. Yeah, he's the head and she's the heart. She's the one that does the nurturing with the children, even the husband. If he's having a really bad day, guess what? I'm right there. How can I help? What can I do to help you? And that works both ways too. I mean, he does that for me too.
Right.
You both have to be,
Supportive.
supportive and
She keeps
loving,
me from
and
choking the kids.
that I do.
I can see where that would be important.
I kind of have to intervene sometimes. Like, no, honey, don't. Yep,
She won't let me sell them.
No, I can't let
Oh,
them.
it's illegal to sell.
We have several people offer to
You
buy
can
them.
give them away for free.
No, we're not getting rid of my kids. Not until they're old enough to go.
Well,
Then-
we spoke
then
about this
there's
last
the door.
week. They are y'all's kids. He's just getting rid of his half.
Yeah.
They're still yours.
But here's the thing: if we are ours one, they're just as much mine as they are his, and there is
They
no
are,
half.
they are just
There
as
is
much.
no half
You know,
because we are one.
well, then it's not yours either. And he's the head.
Hey, we'll just send them to your house until they're old enough to come back.
Fine.
I think he might enjoy having Gabe around because he's always wanting to work. That might not be okay, too
No,
bad.
I love the boys and the grandbaby. I love it all. I love all of our kids, including the what do they call them? Prodigal. The
The
prodigal.
prodigals,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
we have a prodigal, yeah.
But we pray for them and all that good stuff, and we wish that both of them be a woman of faith. We got one that's working on it. Both of you are. I am too. And it was funny when we were telling her and her husband the principles of being man of the house.
And he's like, see, I control you. I was like, that is not what that means.
Right.
Of course, he was just joking,
The funny thing is a man of God is not going to, for lack of better term, when he points out, when he says, when he dictates, so to speak, if he's a man of God and a man of faith, he's not putting her in a position that's disobedient to God. He's not, if he's walking his walk, he's not going to tell her anything that's going to put her in a position of sin and danger and,
Mhm.
and the
And he's
stupid thing
ultimately
is,
responsible for making sure that she knows, her and the children know God. And
well, there is that, and I heard another lady say, and she was on the subject of the whole submission and everybody's butt draws up, that she's like, honey, sometimes his correction is his protection, because
Mhm.
what you don't realize is sometimes he's protecting you from you.
yeah,
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Yes.
and it's very hard for us women to hear it.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, and
But
let's-
again,
let's-
that goes-
Let's not make this a one-sided thing though, because
Back and
as
forth,
guys growing up, we think we're full grown at like 12.
Yeah.
And of course, mentally, in a lot of ways, we are, because our self-improvement kind of stops at toilet training. But beyond that,
But
we
women
get that
mature
same
faster.
we get that same correction from the men in our life. It's like, hey, we want to do this, and they're like, no, you're stupid, and we're going to do it differently because you don't know the results of your actions yet. So we get it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we will get it from other men of faith, and sometimes we get it from y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but
So I'm just pointing out that it's not always it's not a one-sided affair.
oh no, it's definitely
And
not.
it's usually hard to chew.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it with the roles are not one-sided. They're just not, I mean,
Right.
like, because I was writing the blog and I was putting that in there, and it says that, the man is supposed to, is responsible for the emotional, spiritual, and protection,
Right.
but it also goes back to the woman's role is also responsible for the emotional and spiritual,
Mhm.
so you work together.
Yeah.
It's a togetherness. It's not just, oh, well, these are your chores and these are mine. And, no, you work together to make it work.
Well, and y'all are supposed to be of one accord.
Yeah.
That does not mean that y'all are going to agree on every single instance under the sun,
No.
but it does mean that y'all are supposed to work together to come to a beneficial outcome.
Yep.
Which means that neither one of you is always going to get your way
And,
in a
and,
situation.
and there are times that, we'll discuss it, we'll pray on it. And he's like, no, this is what I feel like, and I'm like, okay, there's no getting mad about it. I'm like, I don't agree with it, but hey, you know what? God put you in charge for a reason, and he's going to talk to you about some things that he's not going to talk to me because you are the head.
Right.
So, I don't know what's being said to you. I just know that this is how I see it. And, what I think should be done, and you take it and do what you feel like you need to do based on what God's telling you. And I mean, there's been many times he's like, well, what do you think? And I'm like, well, this is what I think, but talk to God.
Right.
Talk to God. That's pray on it. See what he says. Whatever God leads you to do, I support it. And that is hard. But again, that goes back to, being a woman of faith. You have to have faith not only in God, but
in
you
your
have
husband.
your husband. You have to make sure, if you truly believe that God put you two together as man and wife, then you have to believe that that man's from God. And if you can't trust your husband, then you
And it's
can't
not
trust
your job to rule him,
right. Then you can't have faith in God and not your husband if God puts you together.
Right.
You just can't do that. You have to have, you have to have faith in both. And having faith in your husband does start with having faith in God.
Right.
It really
right.
does. You have to start there. You have to build that relationship with God first. And then he will show you how to be a wife.
I'm glad I have a woman of faith that wants to ride with a teenager at the permit.
I'm teaching him to drive instead of, because I'm a little bit more calmer about it.
Be still.
All being still, sitting there tapping my foot. Break, 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 break. She's saying it for me.
Right.
But he's not doing too bad. But,
He's not.
with a woman of faith, though, also, when it comes to situations like that, and it's good to have that strong woman that's not afraid to do the things that the man.
But I'm also home. You work.
Yeah, and she's looking the window. I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys. The grandbaby's tapping on the window, licking it.
All right, then. Now she needs her crayons and helmet. She's good to go. Amen. I don't forgot where I was going with that.
Talking about me being
A woman of faith is. I'm not saying she's
not me, but
yeah.
in general.
She's not She's not the perfect example, but she is an example, and I'm loving it. And as she said, we're learning together.
I'm not perfect. What? I'm perfectly imperfect. How's that?
You're perfect for me.
That's right. You're perfect for me.
And ew. Chris just said.
Yeah, that's why I just made y'all stop.
No, I don't care.
We just lost our 2 viewers. Great.
I spoke with you about this, I don't know, a year or so ago. You'll see people there on Facebook. It's like, hey, we've been married like this long, and hey, great, you have beaten the odds. Like, I'm happy to hear it. What the ones that upset me is the ones that find the love of their life 9 times a year.
Oh yeah, I know one of them.
Yeah, it's like, no, you just found something new and shiny that doesn't know that you're full of crap.
Yep. But as soon as they find out, guess what? They go too.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. And getting back on the woman of faith, like we spoke about men of faith, and we have examples in the Bible. We have Joseph. We have who was it that became Israel? Jacob.
Yes.
Most of his sons, we have Isaac and Esau, we have, Solomon, David, and then coming into the New Testament, I mean, Paul started out killing Christians.
Yeah.
We have example after example. And then when we look at the woman of faith, well, you brought up the Mary and Martha from the New Testament. And you said those were Lazarus sisters.
Yes.
The same that
Yes.
4 days dead. So it's
Yes.
day 5 you have to watch. Because Christ was down 3, Lazarus was 4. So I'm going to say day 5 is probably that's when you should worry.
Yeah.
But do we have other examples of women of faith? Rahab,
Yes.
which she was the one at Jericho, correct?
She was the one that hid the
spies.
Yes, the spies in her home. She was a prostitute, but she hid the spies in her home that were, and weren't they angels?
I think they were actually Israelites that
I can't remember. There was
we're going to have to dig back into that one.
But yeah, and I mean, she was a prostitute and still had faith
Right.
in God's word.
Right.
Mary.
Both of them.
Jesus' mother. I mean, what
Right.
kind of faith does that take? You know, you're a virgin, but hey, guess what?
In a
you're gonna have a
society that
baby.
would have killed her.
Yes.
That's what a lot of people don't get,
Engaged
is
to a man.
that he had every right to disown her.
Yes.
You know, and not only that, but she was, my understanding is that when this all took place, she was likely 12 to 14.
Yeah.
All right. So culturally, from her parents, she could have been booted completely, if not stoned to death. Joseph, got a lot of names going on.
Mm-hmm.
He had every right to politely walk away, or he could have pressed for a stoning.
Yeah.
You know, so her faith was technically a death sentence.
Yeah.
You know, and then we have, okay, so we've got that Mary. Then Mary Magdalene,
She was possessed.
what was it, 6, 7?
7, I think it was 7 demons that
know.
she was possessed with. And yeah,
Reminds me of some people I know.
Yeah.
So,
You
yeah.
probably know them too.
Yeah.
The woman with the
Eyes
issue,
roll back, head spins, pea soup goes everywhere.
Yeah.
the woman with the issue of the blood.
Yeah.
I mean, all she said, if I just touch his garment,
And that is an amount of
just
faith
the tip of his garment,
You
and I
know.
will be healed.
that is that is a humbling demonstration of faith, that I don't even have to speak to him. I don't have to follow the decrees of the religion. I knew if I could just touch the hem of his garment,
Mm-hmm.
then that would be sufficient.
Yeah.
And we don't have that kind of faith in today's society.
Mm-mm.
We
No.
really don't. So what about like Ruth and Naomi?
Yeah.
So if Joaz is looking for Boaz,
Yeah.
you kind of, if you want to be a
Like,
woman of faith,
She turned away from her whole religion
yes.
and said, "Your God will be my God. I go where you go."
And my understanding, I want to dig more into that one because I ran across something, and some of the reels,
There was 2 daughter-in-laws.
Right.
And Ruth's husband had passed, or not Ruth's. Wow.
Naomi's.
Yeah, her
Yeah,
husband had.
she's the mother-in-law.
Yeah, her husband had passed, and then both of her sons had passed. And
Right.
it left the 3 of them as widows, and she's like, "Well, I'm just going to go back to Jerusalem, my home." And as they're traveling, they get so far, and she turns to Ruth and the other daughter-in-law and says, "Return to your homes. Basically, I've got nothing more that I can do for
Right.
you. Just go back to your families. They can take care of you because I don't know how I'm going to."
Right.
And the one did leave, but Ruth was like, no, you are my mother. I'm staying with you,
Right.
and your God will become my God, and I'm not leaving your side. And that's basically kind of how that,
Well, the what piqued my interest, this reel said that the way Naomi told Ruth to present herself before Boaz went against every bit of her upbringing.
yeah.
Like she went at the door and prostrated herself.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it's like, ladies,
Lay down beside him when he's
That's-
asleep.
that's where you get your Boaz. You don't get your Boaz by being Jezebel. You don't get your Boaz by, because, and don't get me wrong, there are a few ladies mentioned in the Bible that aren't painted in a good light.
Yeah.
There's some guys in the Bible not painted very well either, so let's not get offended here. But all of these things are examples. Ruth sets a positive example. Naomi sets a positive example. The Proverbs 31 sets a positive example.
Yes.
Rahab, even being a prostitute, showed a positive example. Mary Magdalene, like there are women who stood prominent roles. I'm trying to remember the story. who was the woman that Jesus said would be remembered? I'm trying to remember what it is because her name is never even brought up, but her one act of faith.
I remember hearing that.
And I can't remember the specific story. I guess
No,
I
I think her name was mentioned at one point.
it
but
very well could
I
be.
can't remember. Yeah, I don't remember. And then we talked about this one the other night because I was like, hang on. Am I reading this right?
Right,
The Canaanite
right.
woman,
Right.
when she was begging him to heal her daughter who was possessed.
Right.
And he was like, it's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs.
Right.
You know, and I was like, am I reading this the way that, you know, I'm reading this? Because that's kind of harsh.
Well, it's like we discussed, modern Christianity and even atheists and agnostics will say, well, Jesus taught love. He taught acceptance. He taught tolerance. I'm like, have you even read the Gospels?
Right.
Like, yeah, he did teach those things, but he was not always nice and polite and never said anything mean or offensive. He regularly called the Pharisees a brood of vipers. Who did he call the son of Satan? Was it Peter or the Pharisee? It might have been both of them, depending on which gospel.
One of the disciples, he said, get away from me, Satan.
Well, that was Peter.
Yeah.
You know, get thee behind me, Satan. That was
Yeah.
Peter. But he told one of them flat out that, like, you are the son of Satan. You know, and I don't remember specifically which one. And that led, you know, people talking about led me to make a post. It's like everybody talks about loving Jesus, healing Jesus, kind Jesus. Y'all have completely forgotten
Gangster
chasing,
Jesus.
Yeah, chasing with whips and flipping tables Jesus.
There was a gangster Jesus too.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he's the original OG.
But yeah, he's basically telling her, because I was like, am I reading this correctly? Was he basically telling her that you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile, so you're basically don't deserve the bread?
Well, there was a lot of
Like,
animosity between the Canaanites also.
Why do I give you the bread of life, you know, if you're not a Jew, basically?
Right.
You know, and then she's like, well, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. And he said with her faith that her daughter would be healed, and she was healed instantly.
Well, not only that, but he questioned her and she pursued it.
Yeah.
That was, you know, to me, and of course, that didn't come to mind while we were speaking about it the other day. But
she didn't tuck tail and run.
Right. She's like, I want this. And she pursued.
I have faith that you can do this for her no matter who I am.
And he will.
Yes.
You know, not just that he could, but that he would.
Yep. But that's another, you know, woman of faith.
Yeah, the scripture is plumb full of, you know, like we hear so much, and you touched on this. We hear so much nonsense about, well, the man's got dominion and it's just control and he's trying to do all this evilness. And I'm just going to stop there because it's all horse poop. But tell me, why is the Bible chock full of females who are in many ways heroes of the faith?
Well, how many?
Was it Rebecca that helped lead the New Testament church?
There was one in the end, and for Paul, he was helping. She was actually mentioned too as a woman of faith. She was one of the ones that was taking the letters to the church for him, to one of the churches for him.
Yes,
I can't remember her name, but she was also considered a woman of faith. And then you've got the married couple that were out teaching God's word. I can't remember them either. See, my brain.
That's there in Acts, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Now we're not talking about the married couple that lied about their tithe.
No. That's a whole different.
Yeah, their family line stopped then.
Yes. Yeah. No. This is. They came across somebody preaching just what he knew, and so they took him in.
Yeah.
And
educated him.
And educate him again, man and woman of faith.
Right.
You know, they educated him so he could go out and.
Was that not Rebecca and
no,
and Ananias?
No, was not Rebecca. I can't remember. It was a different name. That's why I can't. Yeah, we'll have to look into that. What about Sarah? Sarai.
Right, yeah. Abraham's wife.
Yeah, and see, this story kind of gives me hope because, you know, we go to the I'm not perfect, I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna fall short. You know, Sarah, she fell short for a moment.
The stupid thing is, and like me and DJ spoke going over the men of faith, every man in there that is considered a hero of the Bible, it also lists their mistakes. The only one that didn't have any mistakes was Christ himself.
Yeah.
You know, but Abraham screwed up. I mean, he pimped Sarah out on their travels. Come on, you know.
That was funny. That's
I mean, let's
That's
face
my
it.
sister.
Right, you know, and how many
And he
kings
did
or
it
rulers?
twice, and then
Like the third one's like, why did you tell me that she was your sister and not your wife?
if you remember, further down, it reminds me of Sins of the Father. His son did the same thing with his wife.
Yeah.
So,
You know, like every hero, you know, like David screwed up royally, especially with the Bathsheba incident. You know, Solomon was the wisest that we know of,
yeah,
and
It
like
was
had a
still-
harem full of women, and still the thing about it is, what is it? Ecclesiastes might be Lamentations. I always get that area confused. Where I have chased power, I have chased money, I have chased
Mhm.
goodness, I have chased women, I have chased everything in this world that this world has to offer, and all of it's pointless and meaningless.
hmm
You know, without God, it's all for naught.
yeah.
And you know, so I mean, these are stories of people who
Who messed,
crapped the bed.
they messed up, but still found their way back to God. Repented, true repentance, not I'm sorry and continue doing it.
Right.
You know, they turned from their sins, and you know they still kept the faith that God would forgive them and still
Mhm.
bless them, even though they knew they messed up. You know, and that's kind of with Sarah. You know, she laughed. God's not going to give me no, but of course,
Right.
you know, Abraham did too. But you know, but she's like, I'm going to take it in my own hands. Here's Hagar.
Right.
Here's my slave. And then she got pregnant immediately and was like, oh, no, I don't like her now. You know,
Weird how that happens.
right?
You know.
So, in your opinion, what does a woman of faith look like? Is there a way to paint the picture?
I thought I already did that, but okay.
He's getting us back on topic.
Well, that is on
Man.
topic. That was on topic. We're talking about Sarah's faith, and
Well, I'm just
you know,
trying to.
she lacked
trying to
faith for a second, but then
reevaluate
she
it.
came back.
Well,
You know,
I'm
Yeah.
asking, I'm asking because we've went through several days. I just want to do it
Proverbs 31 is
That's-
going to be your best go-to for woman of faith. She's going to be loving, compassionate, fearless. She's going to be all about God. She's going to go all in with God. And that's not saying that she's going to be perfect.
Right.
She's going to mess up. She's going to falter. She may have doubts from time to time, but it's
But she's going to take accountability.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, which is a bad word this day and age.
Yes. She is going to spend time with God in prayer, reading his word, listening to him. She's going to be obedient, be submissive.
She is going to be a wife that her husband is not prideful, but proud of.
mhm.
You know,
And she's going to be the wife that God called her to be.
Yes.
Right.
She's going to allow God to change her into
Yes.
who she's supposed to be in God's eyes, not the world's eyes, not her own eyes, but
Right.
who God says she is. And she's going to see herself the more she gets closer to God. She's going to see herself more as God sees her. And she is going to be humble. She's not going to be prideful or boastful, or, you know, she is going to serve. She's going to love. She's going to give. She's going to be, you know, wise. I mean, wisdom is a big thing, you know,
Right,
but that
right.
goes again to researching and, you know, listening to God. and she's going to be loyal. I don't know if I said that already. I'm kind of,
I don't think you have.
I just
but
wanted to enter it, get back into it.
Right.
She
right.
has said it once before, but I want to get back into it in case somebody just started watching again. Which
Absolutely.
the reason why I said that because somebody did just start watching, and I wanted to let them know what we're discussing.
Right.
The woman of faith.
and she's going to strive to grow for spiritual growth. She's not going to say, okay, I read the Bible once, I'm good.
You're not going to go to church and help them bless you if they can.
No,
Put your front lip out.
no. I mean, I finally, this beginning of this year, finally finished the Bible for the first time all the way through.
Right.
I don't know how many times I've started and like, I can't get into it. I can't get into it.
Right.
And then something just, well, I know what it was. It wasn't just something, it was God. And he was just like, nope. This
You can do it.
I don't know, this passion just out of nowhere was like, okay. And honestly, it goes back to kind of the church that we, he did a challenge to read the full Bible in 30 days.
Ooh,
That was
Tough road to
hard.
hoe.
Yes. And I was like, okay, I'm taking this challenge, but it's probably not going to be in 30 days because I have never read it, but
Right.
I'm going to read the Bible start to finish, however long it takes me.
I think it would be easier, and my problem is getting through the prophets because they're in no order whatsoever. So the things they're talking about, that's what gives me fits. Now I know that like the book of Daniel, we've heard enough about Daniel that this was after the time of Solomon. It was during the Persian conquest and so on and so forth. And we've all heard about Nebuchadnezzar and the writing on the wall.
Mhm.
Was it Nebuchadnezzar?
Yes.
The first or second?
First, wasn't it?
The first, I believe, yeah, because he's the one that went mad, and it was his son that screwed up, and that's where the writing on the wall came in. I believe.
Yes.
So, like,
I'm pretty sure.
but that's my problem getting through the prophets is the association. What are they talking about? When, like, where does this fall with the rest of the Bible in the timeline?
Yeah.
Because, just saying, hey, Jerusalem, y'all are screwing up and it's going to be bad. Well, okay, but what did they do?
Yeah.
What specifically are we talking about? That's been my problem. So trying to go through it in a more
Chronological order.
chronological way, yes.
So the first time I read it start to finish.
Right.
I'm reading it again the second time through, and the Bible app has where you can do it in chronological order. There's an
Right.
actual plan that you can sign
Right.
up
Yeah,
for.
I've done that.
And I'm reading
and
that now, and
didn't
I'm
make it
like,
real hard.
it's weird though because it's like, okay, this chapter's not here.
right.
It's like wait, so in a way, it's still kind of confusing because how the chapters are lined
Right.
up.
Yeah. Like, when you go through the book, the Bible, like Job is almost at Psalms, but chronologically it's about 3/4 of the way through Genesis.
Yeah.
So, okay, that makes a little bit more sense as to, like why Job's position was as good as it was and then as bad as it was.
Yeah.
Because you have a better understanding of when and where this took
Yeah.
place.
Because it was before,
Right.
the laws were actually,
Right.
but yeah, so I took that challenge and I read through it, and now I'm on my second, like I said, the chronological one. And it is kind of neat seeing it in that perspective of how it actually happened.
Right.
And I do different translations. I do New King James, and then I did MSG and an ESV, and that's another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and read it. I did New King James the first time.
Right.
I was doing MSG and somehow I got switched to ESV, so I don't know. But but I'm going to read it through with that one, and then I'm going to read it through with different translations because different translations break it down. Some are easier to understand than others, but each time I pray, hey, God, show me what I didn't see the first time.
Right.
And he
right.
is showing me different things. I'm like, I don't remember reading that the first time, but maybe it's when I was in bed and kind of half dozing and didn't really,
Well, the fun part about the Bible, it's called the living word because every time you read it, you're going to get something out of it that you didn't get the previous time.
Yeah.
I tell a story. A young lady I dated years ago, She called me one night, like I'm ready for bed. She called me excited, and I'm like, well, who broke in the house? You know, she's like, I feel so stupid. Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah. She's like, that never clicked. I always thought, well, why is he going to make them fishermen? They're already fishermen. I mean, they were talking about casting the nets. She's like, it never clicked in my brain. She's like, I've read it since childhood. I'm like, yeah. And then I got fussed at for making her feel stupid because, you know, like she was excited and I wasn't, you know, but
How dare you?
I know it's my manner, but you know, but it's one of those things that, you know, you'll read it several times and it might not click, but when it does, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's going to happen every time you read it.
Yep. And that's, you know, part of being, you know,
You got it.
sorry, grandbaby's blowing raspberries on the window now. You know, woman of faith is you've got to continuously have that want and that urge. And like I said, I tried many times and just couldn't do it. And then all of a sudden it just, okay, God's like, nope. And I've been praying for, you know, give me a heart for you. I want to have that passion to learn, you know, I need that passion. And it started happening. And now it's like, sometimes I do too much at once and I'm like, okay, I got to back up. And I've got 4 different Bible studies going on in there, plus reading the Bible and doing
Well,
this.
and that's the thing is we all need a heart for worship and a passion to dive deeper. You know, I used to hear Miss Renita say, we are supposed to press in until we can see his face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And she used to say that and it made no sense to me. But the more I thought about it, like this woman understood things that I didn't, you know, and where was I going with that? But you can't overwhelm yourself because you will mess up your understanding.
Yeah.
You know, just like everything else, if you're pulled in too many directions at one time, everything suffers.
Yep. And I mean, I was just so excited to like, I had this
Right.
passion again, you know, finally or again. And I was like, I want to learn everything I can. And I had my daily one reading the Bible from start to finish. I was doing one with him. I was doing one with the teenagers. I was doing one with my daughter because me and her always have one going on now.
Right.
She lives 2.5 hours away, so we can't really meet face to
Right.
face. So we do different Bible plans together on there, and we can comment on there if we need to or whatever, and we can call and discuss it. And I love having that.
Right.
You know, being able to do that with her. And again, that goes back to there's no excuses. These things right here have, you know, the opportunities for you to
we
do
have
it.
phone technology, video technology, webcam, Skype, you name it. What we have is either opportunity or excuses.
Mhm. But I was doing like 4, I was doing, I don't know, 5 of them at a time. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I'm like overloading my brain. Like, I can't keep track of what I'm reading. So I kind of backed up. We're doing one between the 2 of us. We're going on Revelations, and I have my daughters, and then the one that's, you know,
Right.
the teenagers kind of slacked off and quit doing it. But, you know, we're
I'm
going
about
to
to start that one. What's it called? Riddick?
radical.
Radical. I can always do it again. Radical.
Yeah, radical. We're going to order, he's got one book and we're going to order another, and we're going to try to start doing it together. You know,
Right.
that's something I was like, you know, we've got to get back into, you know, I just feel that strongly. If we're going to make this work, especially with this podcast, we've got to be obedient. We've got to,
Right.
I just want to tell
we got to pray together, and we got to start
Yes.
studying together.
I want to tell all the husbands out there, I know from experience, if you pray for your wife the night before, she'll wake up in a good mood.
Sometimes, most of the time.
I
It depends
mean-
on how bad I sleep.
I mean, just it don't hurt to try it.
Mm-mm.
I mean, what's the worst going to happen? She wakes up to more devil than she already was, or wakes up saved. I mean,
Well-
I'd rather she wake up saved and ready to go and conquer the world with God at
Right.
her side and not in front of her or behind her, like a lot of people say. God's in front of me. No, he's not.
Well, he can go before us to make a way.
I agree.
He's
agree.
everywhere.
Yeah, he's like a
He's omnipresent. He's everywhere.
squirrel. He's everywhere.
But he is with you.
Well, that is the thing, and I agree with this the banter back and forth here. Yes, God does make a way, but He walks with us.
Yeah.
But He also leads.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a difficult concept for us to get, but it's no different. Like, have you ever twisted your ankle? You've got somebody helping hold you up. You're there side by side, but they're driving, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's really no different of a concept, because no matter how we face it, we're still going to be broken in some fashion.
Right. Yeah.
But
Become
He's the
broken.
one that makes us whole.
God wants you to come broken.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people say, we're going to go on this subject for a second. A lot of people go, well, I got to get right before I get with God. No, you don't.
No.
No.
You're never going to be right until you get with God.
Yeah. A
Well,
woman of
and-
faith will do just that.
I got after a friend of mine not too long ago. I was like, when are you going to get your heathen rear end back into being a man of God? Well, I just have a hard time going to church. Everybody's a hypocrite and this and that, whatever. I'm like, dang, do you ever go to the hospital to see well people?
That's a good one.
Like, do what? And I was
And
like,
you don't go to church for the
people
people.
don't want to go to church because it's full of hypocrites. Do you go to the gas station? Do you go to Walmart? Everywhere you go, there's hypocrites there.
Yep.
So why is
It's-
church the one that you can't stand seeing them at, but you go everywhere else that they hang out?
It's not about, churches aren't about the people. It's about God.
That's
You go to see God, not the people.
right.
Now I'm not saying there are some instances in some churches where it's best to kind of walk away, but that's
Yes.
God's discernment to place on you.
Right.
That's between you and God. He'll tell you where if you need to be there or not. He's had us.
And for the
you know,
record, you need somebody that's teaching you scripture,
yes,
not somebody who's not going to step on your feelings.
yeah,
I heard a pastor say several years ago, it's like, if I'm not getting under your skin, I'm not doing my job.
yeah,
And while that's inconvenient, he's correct.
yeah. And there are too many who want to give you the niceties of the Bible and don't want to teach you the harder things.
Right.
There are some who will teach you the harder things, but they're not 100% biblical.
So there is that. And, I do think that if you listen to a pastor preach, and let's say they're preaching for an hour, if it's 45 minutes of you're terrible and 15 minutes of grace, they've missed the mark.
Yeah.
All right. Because that tells me that you're right back into preaching the law.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. But on the exact opposite is also true. If you are one of these prosperity gospels that you only preach the benefit, but you don't preach the sacrifice, you don't preach that hell is hot and sin is real, well, you're still under a false teaching, So it's what you need is the Bible,
Yeah.
not part of it, not just the feel good part. I mean, we all like to feel good, but if you're not getting correction, then you're not growing,
Yeah.
and it's uncomfortable. Nobody likes it.
No.
Nobody likes it. I don't like it. The Mr. and Miss
know.
Noy doesn't like it. Nobody likes it. Nobody's like,
But
like we don't enjoy. It's like, yeah, everything I thought was wrong and I'm a big screw up. No, nobody likes it.
But to be, true men and women of faith, you've got to be open-minded to that correction.
Yeah.
And if you
sharpens
question it-
iron.
If you question it, guess what? If it goes against the Bible, it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it goes with the Bible, then you might want to start looking at what's being corrected.
And I will even add a footnote there. The Bible, it's very complex, but at the same time, in many ways, it's not. If somebody is trying to make a point, the more strings they have to draw to make their point right, the less likely it is to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. If they're making a point and they point out 35 scriptures that reinforce what they're saying, you can build on that.
Yep.
But if they're bringing up a bunch of vague references and trying to tie it all together to make, basically, you want to operate by the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid.
Pretty
If
much.
the Bible says it's wrong, it's wrong. There are some things that I would say are a safe assumption. The Bible doesn't specifically bring up, like, I mean, I'll say it. The Bible does not specifically condone abortion. It doesn't specifically bring up the practice,
No.
but there's enough in there that's like, well, it does have a hard time about sacrificing your kids.
Well,
It does have a hard time with the concept
the
of
murder.
you're not really a person until the magical trip down the vaginal canal.
See,
Yeah,
but then God says, I knew you before you were born.
Right.
I know every hair on your head. And he
Right.
also said when he was talking and all the little children were gathering around him, what did he say about the little
to
children?
be like children.
And then he said, if anyone were to hurt these little children, it's better for them to have a millstone in their neck and them to be drowned.
Yeah.
So how is abortion okay if he's saying that? And also,
I want you.
thou shalt not murder.
I shall not. And that's the thing. I ran across a video. That is the more accurate translation. A lot of us were brought up, thou shalt not kill. Murder is different than killing. Murder is the shedding of innocent blood. Children are innocent, and until they reach a point of accountability where they know that they're doing wrong, they're technically innocent. It's the same with I know of an individual that they refer to special needs people. So like those are God's people. Like they do not have that capacity to know right from wrong, even if they know that throwing a fit will get them their way. They don't have that capacity of understanding.
Age of accountability is different based on.
It's a mentality.
Yeah. I mean, there could be a 7-year-old that could be held accountable based on his understanding of God, where, a 12-year-old may not.
Right.
And
And the point I was trying to bring up, and I'm not trying to advocate for the process, it's that, no, it's not specifically brought up, but neither is your driver's license,
Right. Or the internet or
Right.
any of our electronic stuff
Right.
that
There's so much that isn't specifically brought up. But the principle is still there. So there are things that we could call a very safe assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Don't kill your kids.
Yeah.
That seems to be a pretty safe
I
assumption.
mean, he talks a lot in the Bible about how great the kids are. One thing that I did.
We were supposed to come to him in a childlike manner.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
One thing that I did forget about what it means to be a woman of faith is virtuous.
Now,
Go ahead.
What does that mean?
I'm
Virtuous.
leaving it alone. Go ahead.
Demify it for us.
Demify it? Okay, so-
Yeah, crayon version.
Virtuous is withholding till marriage.
Ooh.
It is not giving yourself in any way to a man unless you are married to him. And that is any touching or, sexual.
I'm going to take
Trying
it a
to
step farther,
keep this.
because I've had this talk with people, and it's what I refer to as virtuous traits. It's more than simply of a sexual nature. You're also honest. You have integrity.
Yeah.
You are loyal. You are going to be demonstrating qualities of virtue.
Yep.
Rather than of a more sinful nature.
Yes. It's how you. It's how you hold yourself. It's how you speak. It's if you're out there. I've got to work on it myself. I'm cussing like a sailor. I'm not being very virtuous.
No.
And that's something. And I went from not cussing at all until I got this last job that I had before, I quit and got the grandbaby, and everybody there was cussing, and it was like,
oh yeah, we'll
and
that
it
F-bomb like
kind
it
of
sprinkles.
and I kind of started getting complacent with that, and I started talking like them because guess what? I was around them all the time.
The use of foul language, and I get after my daughter about it, and I use it. I shouldn't, but I do. And it's one of those things. Like for me personally, if I'm consciously thinking about trying to quit it gets worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, I tell people, I was like, the use of foul language is the easiest one to get into and the hardest to break.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
is. It is. But to be virtuous is just be a woman of,
Was I go bowling pretty regular, and there's this couple that comes up there, and I don't remember their names at all, but I see them often enough to howdy. And a couple weeks ago, they were a couple lanes down, and it wasn't real busy. And the lady, she bowled, and apparently it didn't go the way it was supposed to, or whatever. And I thought I heard something, and I'm like, did I really just hear what I think I did? And I couldn't let it go, so I walked over. I'm like, did I just hear a fiddlesticks come out from over here? And she started laughing. It's like, it's better than the alternative. I'm like, I'm not knocking it. I just wanted to make sure I heard what I thought I did.
You don't hear that often.
No. And like, well, that was a lot better than yelling fornicate real loud.
Yeah.
So, my hat to her,
Yeah.
but not knocking it in any way. If that's what you got to do, fine.
So I just Googled, that might be our next podcast,
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Family of Faith.
Wow.
Keep the faith going.
It may be the last one of this series. I'm going to get them all together. I'm even going to upload the one we had audio issues, because you can hear some of it. It's got a little echo in it.
That might be something that, our son, because he was wanting to kind of join, that might be a good one for him, considering some of the struggles that he's gone through and where he's at now.
Yeah.
He's 15 and he's been through some things, and I'm seeing his faith grow more and more. And, so
Maybe we get our daughter on there too, maybe.
maybe.
She's not too busy with the grandbaby.
Yeah.
Because he'll be at work probably.
Yeah, he probably
I don't
will.
know. We'll see what happens. But this has been a good one.
Yeah.
Family, I mean, the whole family's got to be faith too. It can't just be the husband and the wife.
But the kids are not going to
We got to teach our
know.
kids to do right from wrong.
Yeah.
Follow God, read the Bible.
Well, there's that. And as I was getting at earlier, we can look at the Bible for examples of what to do, who, of course, we're all supposed to emulate Christ.
Yes.
But
Jesus
that is
alone.
an unachievable goal.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we should be like Paul or we should be like Abraham, but they're more achievable goals. So we could, to some degree, we could take reference from Abraham or Joseph or Mary or Martha,
Mm-hmm.
or about 70 of the
I mean,
Marys.
they're just good examples of.
Well, and that's the point I'm making is, like as a woman of faith, you're going to want to look at the Proverbs 31. You're going to
Absolutely.
want to look towards Ruth and Naomi. You're going to want to look towards Mary and Martha. You're going to want to leave Jezebel and Delilah off the menu.
Yes.
You need to read that so you can be aware. Don't do this.
Yes.
And if you find that you are emulating some of those characteristics, stop.
Yeah.
But
Those are prime examples of how not to be virtuous.
right.
Um,
And for the gentleman, it's the same way. If we're looking and we're like, well, Abraham did this and he was screwing up, but I see a strange resemblance. Well, quit.
yeah.
Yeah. We're not to become Ruth or Abraham or Joseph or whoever, but these are more obtainable examples,
Yes.
because these folks were not perfect.
Right.
And it's something to, like we are to try to model Christ, yes, but these are achievable, like smaller steps, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, and we should be Jesus with skin on, but it's also good to see these stories of all these people that
Screw up.
that God favored. I
Yes.
mean, he deeply favored a lot of them.
Yes.
But he wasn't afraid to correct them when they were in the wrong either and say, nope.
Which again goes against a lot of the modern belief of Jesus is, well, he accepted everybody. I'm like, well, your definition of acceptance and his are two. He loved everybody, but he regularly told them, like, hey, you're screwing up and quit sinning.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, he didn't say do your thing.
It-
He didn't say live your life. He didn't, like there's so much he didn't say. But what did he say? Stop sinning, love God before everybody else.
and
you know.
it shows God's mercy and grace, which is something that we can hold on to, but it also shows that he will correct his children.
Yes.
He will, but it's up to us to listen. And he will only correct for so long before he's like, okay, I'm done. I mean, wasn't it Solomon?
I think
Saul.
Yeah.
Saul. Yeah. I mean, he corrected and corrected and corrected, and he continued to turn away from God. And he's like, okay, I'm done.
Well, and
And
for
we're gonna-
context, we are talking about King Saul.
Yes.
Pre-David. We're not
Yes.
talking about Saul who became Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's up to us as men and women of faith to take that correction and, turn from those things that we aren't supposed to do. And there's multiple characters in the Bible that have said have done just that. I fell short, but God corrected me. I'm back on track. And we can see God's grace and mercy and forgiveness. We can see the blessings he's bestowed on them. And if we strive to be like Jesus, knowingly that we're not perfect and we're going to fall short, that gives us hope.
Right. And too often we find ourselves as Jonah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying
God
to run
says,
away.
hey, go talk to these people. No, I don't like them.
Yeah.
I don't know why you like them. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I told you to do so anyway,
And
but I don't want to,
And I will say, when I say a woman of faith, Proverbs 31 woman, there is a lot to that. There really is.
Yeah, each line packs a punch.
Yes. So don't get overwhelmed. Don't
You're gonna want to sit down as you read it. Don't stand there.
take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Work on, and you and God have that conversation. What do I work on first? Because God's going to tell you where you need to work on. But don't try to do it all at once because, I'm still working on it. And that's always going to be a work in progress for me. I'm never going to be.
But that is the goal.
But that is the goal. Yes. And I'm not saying I'll never be, but and it may not be 100%, but I can get darn close. But it's going to take work and it's going to take time and it's going to take God. And that's pretty much what a woman of faith is. I'm claiming that I can be a Proverbs 31 woman. I will fall short, but with God on my side, I'm going to do the best that I can. And he's got me and he's going to get me through.
Amen.
Amen.
That's what it is. And
All right. So with that being said, the grandbaby was getting restless.
yep.
It's okay. We've been doing this for longer than I thought we would. It's okay. It's in God's time, not our time.
Yep.
So, like I said, starting next Friday, you will see this podcast. Then we'll go live on Saturday. Starting next Saturday, we'll be live on Facebook. I think we got everything. I'm gonna say, and we, as in God, included in that too. He's been helping me figure this out, helping us figure this out.
Mhm.
It's been going good.
He's opened some doors up for
Yes.
us to help us that we didn't even.
And speaking of that, I hate to mention this, but when money's tight, you figure things out, or God helps you figure things out. I don't want to brag about spending money or whatever, but I went to a place called Rent One, and they had some laptops in stock. Went there last week, got one, and a couple of days ago they called me and said, "Hey, we have the laptop that you need." And I just want to give them the props for helping me out because they knew what I needed. And it was the same price. Actually, the laptop was cheaper, but it's a better laptop. And they're providing what I need at the price that we can afford. God is providing for us. And what's crazy is, like I was telling you, God talks to us. And I was praying that we get a better laptop because the one I had just wasn't working.
Right.
And 2-3 days later, I got a phone call saying, "Hey, we got the one that you need." And I went and picked it up yesterday. They are providing for us. So,
Yeah, he thanked me for it. I said, that wasn't me, that was God. He said, but you didn't throw a fit about the money being spent. And I said, it's for God. Why would I? Like that's for God. I mean,
I see where a lot of women would have that struggle.
I'm like,
It's like
God says do it. I don't mind argue.
Even the same thing of tithing. It's like, well, how are we going to make ends meet? Well, that's a faith thing. That's not a Yeah, but I can see certain instances, you know, if Mr. Noyd had come home's like, hey, I just signed off on a $20 million facility.
Yeah,
But it's
then,
for God. And I
That
could
would be an
totally see
issue.
thunderclouds rolling in,
but you know,
You know.
a small payment for a better laptop
which
so
was
we
the
can,
same payment that he already had.
Yeah.
You know, so it's already budgeted.
yeah, like we couldn't, like we needed a better laptop for him for this. So,
And you got new toys.
oh yeah, he's in love with that laptop. I think he might love it more than me sometimes.
Well, put yourself as a screensaver.
That's right.
Well, we thank y'all for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you next week. We hope to have more people watching, and y'all have a good night. God